Today we are dedicating the hour to the role of women in the Egyptian Uprising. First up, we have Nawal El Saadawi, legendary Egyptian novelist, physician, feminist, and writer whose books have been banned in Egypt. Nawal is a lifetime activist and freedom fighter dedicated to voicing the struggle of women in Egypt. Welcome to the Morning Mix, Nawal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Can you raise your voice?
Absolutely.
And clearly, please. My mother tongue is Arabic.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us, the massive protests, they are continuing to erupt, and the Egyptian people seem to be standing solid. What has been happening today in the streets of Egypt?
We are becoming more solid, more determined. Increasing in numbers, millions and millions. So the revolution is attracting lay people who never understand politics or were active in anything. And they came because the millions in Egypt are oppressed by dictatorship, by Mubarak regime, which is a continuation of Sadat regime. And we call it businessmen regime. Few men took all the money, robbed the money of 80 million people. We have 50% of Egyptians under the poverty line with $2 a day. Most of them are women. So we have feminization of poverty. And also women were oppressed by the Sadat regime and Mubarak regime, who encouraged the most fanatic Islamic and Christian fundamentalism. So now we are going to liberate ourselves from this horrible regime.
Nawal El Saadawi, tell us about what is the role of women in this uprising. They're calling it a people's revolution, a movement without leaders. Tell us about the role of women right now.
We cannot say that it is without leaders. There are leaders, unknown leaders, different. They don't want to show themselves on the TV because when their names are known, the regime will arrest them. And they arrested many young men and women in prisons whom they thought are the leaders. But the real leaders are unknown, and they are working very hard to form committees. The committee to change the constitution, the committee to select and elect the temporary government, the media committee that answered the lies of Mubarak media. And those people are men and women equally, you know. This revolution did something very, a miracle. We are unified. We never felt we are women, you know. Not a single girl was harassed. There was no harassment of any girl among those millions. Not a church was burned. So we discovered that who made the harassment of women? Who burned the churches? It was the Mubarak regime men to create a religious strife, to create a conflict between Muslims and Christians. So now everything is clear. And we are having a new Egypt, new secular Egypt, where everybody is equal to everybody.
That's the voice of Nawal El Saadawi speaking to us from Cairo, Egypt. And Nawal, my name is Nora Barrows-Friedman, and you have written so many books, so many papers. You've spoken out for so many decades, and your work has been banned, and you were jailed for speaking out against the regime in Egypt. What does this opening up of free speech mean, especially for women's working rights in Egypt, especially in the context of what you called the feminization of poverty? What kind of a new future are women, especially around Egypt, looking forward to right now?
Yes. What the most important is that Suzanne Mubarak will not be there. You know, the wife of Mubarak, the so-called First Lady, was the first enemy to the women movement in Egypt. Like most of First Ladies, she supported her husband regime oppression, class and patriarchy. She banned our association. She prevented us from organizing the Egyptian Women Union. And she was after us. Why? Because she wanted to be the leader of the women movement in Egypt by force like that, just by power. She wanted the oppression of women under the so-called, she organized a group which she called NGO. It was not NGO, it was not non-governmental. It was governmental. And she was the head of it, and she called it the National Council of Women, who did nothing except to women, completely the opposite. She stopped us from speaking loudly against patriarchy, against double standard, against polygamy, against Mubarak regime. She supported him 100%, though everybody knew that he was a dictator, he was an oppressive military man, stubborn. You see, now we are having more than 2 weeks revolution, millions in the street, and he doesn't respect the will of the people. He wants to stay forever. He stayed in power 30 years. He wants to stay forever and bring his son. But he is blind and deaf and doesn't respect the millions. But he has fallen. And even Obama in the United States told him, please, please go away. But he doesn't hear. And now it's, in fact, he has to go in the coming few days. I heard the BBC today saying that he is going to Germany to continue his medical treatment, but what we are saying, he will not go. He should stay here to be on trial for the blood that was shed in the revolution. I was in the Tahrir Square on Wednesday. I go every day. But on Wednesday, 2nd of February, was the most bloody day. We were standing, as usual, in the square, and suddenly the square was invaded by men on horses and on camels, gangs of Mubarak, invading the square. I was about to be knocked down by a horse, though the young men carried me away. And hundreds of young men and women were killed on that day, and thousands injured. So we decided that he should not go. He should be on trial for the blood that was shed.
And that's the voice of Nawal El Saadawi speaking to us from Cairo, Egypt. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman here on the Morning Mix with Tara Dorabji.
And Nawal, just in terms of what you want to say to the women and people out there around the world, how can they support and what can they also learn from this amazing revolution underway in Egypt?
Yes, we are all in the same boat. You are speaking from the United States.
Yep.
Yes. I've been a visiting professor in different universities in the United States when I was in exile. So I know about the society in America. You have a patriarchal capitalist system. Women in America, American women, they are still fighting for their rights. So economically, socially, morally, being raped sexually and all that. So we are all in the same boat. So we have to get rid of the patriarchal class system. We have to fight together to fight against patriarchy and class and capitalism and colonialism and neocolonialism and imperialism. You should fight with us to say that Egypt and any other country should be free of American domination, Israeli domination. We should have our economy. We should produce our food, not to depend on importing our wheat and bread from America. So you have to fight together with us for economic independence, political independence, moral independence, to be a free and independent country like all other countries who are free and independent. We deserve it. We deserve it. So you have to fight for that and to fight against your own government. That colonizing is colonizing. We, under Sadat and Mubarak, we became an American colony, and that's why poverty increased. The gap between the rich and the poor increased. Feminization of poverty increased. So we have the same cause.
Nawal El Saadawi, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for all your work. Be safe out there, and we will be following this. Our hearts are with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nawal.